Not all real estate brokerages or teams are created equal. Through the years of selling thousands of homes, I've heard hundreds of stories of how some companies work. And today I'm going to share how to navigate and select the right brokerage or team, whether you're just starting out or you're looking to make a change in your career. Now, it's first really important to note that success in real estate is 100% your responsibility. So in theory, you could pick any company or team and you could be successful. But the chance of success drops significantly if you don't get it right on the first time. Because it's like swimming against a current. You can get to where you want to go, but it's going to take a lot more energy. It's going to be a lot harder to get there. I was able to make the right selection when I first started, and it helped propel me until I started getting enough momentum on my own to a point where we were selling and are selling thousands of homes. This episode is going to help you get it right the first time. So my first interview was with a top brokerage in my area. The branding was strong, and I thought that, this might just be a really good fit. Well, I was wrong. A few minutes into the interview, the broker made a strange comment. He said, "Mark, there are a lot of pretty girls here." Pardon, I said. I wasn't sure where he was going with it because I was just recently married. He said, yeah, there's a lot of pretty girls. And I just said, listen, I'm married, so I'm good on that end. And then the mood shifted a bit, and he said, well, Mark, he's like, you're a good looking guy, and I'm not sure if you have ego or not. And then it just became awkward after that. But what ended up happening was there was a knock on the door, and he answered a marketing related question. He came back, and I thanked him and left, and I ended up sending him a note card after thanking him for his time, but it just wasn't the right fit. For my second interview, I ended up calling another brokerage, and I called in, and the receptionist answered, and I asked to speak to the hiring manager. Well, she ended up picking up the phone, and it was a little bit rude and just lacked enthusiasm. And I thought, you know what, this isn't a great start. She wasn't, super warm. And she tried transferring me to the manager's office, and then it bounced back, and I waited. And then she came back and said, would you like me to put you through to his voicemail? And at that point, I thought to myself, if this is what I'm experiencing, my future clients are going to experience the same thing when they call in for me or when they book a showing on one of my appointments, one of my listings. So I decided not to leave a voicemail. So that was a strike two. And then the third company, I got it right. And this time, thankfully, I connected with a very good manager, and it was the right environment, and things just clicked. And what I realized is that I selected that brokerage based on liking the manager and liking the office. But there are so many other things that you could look at to increase the probabilities of getting the company right the first time. I've heard hundreds of stories of how some companies work through the years. So the lessons I'm going to share with you are really valuable. You first want to start with your online search. So pretend you're a buyer or seller and go on the company's website. How user-friendly is it? What are the online reviews saying? And what are the agent profiles showcasing the agents? What does that look like? Just pretend you're a buyer or seller, and what is the experience like? Start evaluating the leaders of the company and go online and start checking them out as to, is this a leader that I think I can follow? Does it align with my values? You want to look at the marketing quality of the online presence of the company as well, or the team. And this just gives you really good insight of how you're going to be portrayed when you put your name beside that brand. Once you make your preliminary online assessment, narrow it down to like 3 to 5 companies, and make sure you interview teams and companies. I think you should interview both just to see and get a better understanding of what both offer. Now, if you're interviewing a team, it's going to be a different process than interviewing a traditional real estate brokerage. Since teams handle a lot of your expenses and generate leads and appointments for you, they take on more risk. So this just means they're going to be much more selective of who they bring on board than a traditional real estate brokerage that is more focused on numbers, okay? Now, a lot of brokerages, traditional brokerages, are still culture driven, and there's to a certain degree, they are selective on who they bring on, but just not as selective as, say, a real estate team. For example, we only bring on 1.5% of the agents who apply to be on our team. So we're really selective of who we bring on. Now, when you attend the interview, just observe the tone and the atmosphere in the workplace. So as soon as you walk in, like, what's the tone when you walk in? Is this a place that you'd be excited to come to every day? And when you start the interview with the manager, ask yourself, is this somebody that I can look up to? What's the manager's experience selling homes? And so here's some other questions that will guide you into the conversation to ensure that you're asking the right questions. So a question for the manager is, how would you describe the company culture? Culture is one of the biggest reasons why people work on our team. Like it's the number one thing that comes out. When I ask the question, why do you work here? It seems to be like a standard answer. It's like, there's just it's the people, right? And so they say culture, but in different words. And so a lot of the other agents that I've spoken with that work either on teams or traditional real estate brokerages, company culture is a big part of it. So just have the manager explain to you what their company culture is like. And they should be able to give you a good answer on that. What does the onboarding and ongoing training look like? This is so critical, especially if you're a new agent. So for example, for us, we have a 4 to 6 week onboarding academy that we bring our agents through. There are a lot of companies that are just kind of throw you in and you got follow, Bob around. But there's also a lot of companies that do great job onboarding as well. So just get a good understanding of what the onboarding and ongoing training looks like. What does the day-to-day after-hours support look like? So here's the example. You're doing your first deal. It's after hours. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and you have a deadline of, say, 10 p.m. And so you got like pretty much like less than 2 hours to figure out how to navigate through that next step. And if you don't have somebody you can call to help you through that, it can be a real challenge, right? So if you have somebody you can reach out to and you know who that is, and you have that support, that's going to be a big help. I can tell you there are times when I was selling hundreds of homes and I just needed to run a scenario by somebody. And if you have a good support system, that makes your life a whole lot easier, especially when you're in a pinch with a deadline. Now, the next question is, what's the company's market share and the agent turnover rate? So if you're getting agents coming in, leaving all the time, that's more of a concern. Next question is what's the average agent's first year annual home sales? So if you get the average home sales, you can do reverse engineering and find out what the average agent makes on a year-to-year basis. We'll try their first year, and then ongoing, you can even ask for what's the average agent make in this brokerage or team. You can ask that. Now, not everybody's going to give you that information, but if you get the average home sales, you can reverse engineer to figure out what is the average agent makes in their first year, and then what's their overall average for all of their agents. The next question is what does the company cover in regards to the expenses, and what is the agent responsible for as well? So this is really big when it comes down to what your ongoing costs are. And so that ties in really well to what is the commission structure look like in this team or brokerage. Now, normally what I would recommend is leave that to last, because that to me is the last question that you should always ask at the very end. Because to me, it's less important about what the split is. It's more important on what my overall net profit's going to be. How much money am I going to put in my pocket? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Next question is, do they have any company listing or buyer presentations that you can use, that you can plug into? When I first started, I remember my very first listing appointment, I just kind of threw some company literature together and I print off a few comparable sales and I just ran out the door with a folder. And that was my listing presentation. Now, through the years, we were able to build and curate a masterful buyer and listing presentation that all of our agents get access to. But there are some companies that just don't provide that. So if you have those tools when you start, I'm telling you, it can be a real game changer there for you. Next question is, how are leads distributed? So leads or appointments. So for teams, for example, for us, we actually book appointments, listing and buyer appointments for our agents while they're in other appointments. So we have access to their calendar and we can go ahead and book appointments for them. There are a lot of brokerages out there that will do lead generation. So you'll get the lead and then you have to convert it. But just ask, Is there a lead distribution list? Will you get leads? And what's the average amount of leads that you're going to get per month or appointments per month? Okay, so just on average. If you ask the question, then at least you'll know going forward if you're going to be receiving any leads or if it's 100% your responsibility. Most brokerages, you will need to do that on your own and do your own lead generation, but there are a lot of brokerages out there that will still provide that for you. So just know that up front, right? Know that up front. The next question is do any of the company leaders actively sell? And are you competing against them? So there are a lot of brokerages and managers out there that will more so just do any of their personal sphere business and personal listings. But there are active brokers out there that will take a lot of the incoming business and actively sell on their own. And you should just know that. So, that may or may not be important to you, but I think that is a very good question to ask, and it's a fair question to ask. For us on our team, our manager will do maybe a handful of sales that are more so friends and family, but they're 100% focused on building our agents up on a day-to-day basis. They're full-time doing that. So just know that up front, and I think that's going to position really well to know how much support you're going to have. Next question is are all the agents on the same pay scale? So I think this is just good to know of, is this something that I can work my way up to something if there's different pay scales? And just having an understanding of that's just a good question. The next question is can you provide the names of 2 to 3 agents that you can actually go talk to and just invite out to coffee? I think this one is overlooked the most, because if you can talk to 2 or 3 agents and get an understanding from them that are on, that are in the trenches, you're going to get a much better understanding of what the overall culture is. Okay. And so it doesn't cost you anything, it costs you a couple bucks for a cup of coffee. But if you reach out to a couple of the agents and you just even call them and have a phone conversation, that will be a very good introduction to what the brokerage is actually offering. And how they're responding to you says a lot about the brokerage and the company culture as well. And then the last question that I always think is a very last question you should ask, you should not be asking this on the very first question, is how does compensation work? And so for me, this is a red flag if somebody is coming in and they're only about the split, okay? This question can really say a lot about who's coming in and if they're more, say, split focus and what's in it for me versus what can I actually bring to the table, okay? When making your selection, it's really important to prioritize what value you're going to extract from the company, like how much you're going to learn more than the actual split of the model is. Because the classic line, right? You get what you pay for. Well, in real estate, it's no different. Remember that the most important thing will be how much net profit you put in your pocket at the end of the day, not what the split is. And here's an example. Making 50% of $400,000 in commission is much better than 90% of $100,000 in commission, and is definitely better than 100% of zero, right? I've sat at the table with agents in the past when they were interviewing with me, and I asked them how much they made over the last 3 years. And I remember this example with this agent. They were making $100,000 gross commission. And I said to him, listen, our average agent at the time, they were making $200,000 net. I can show you how to do that. And the agent kept focusing, but what's the split? What's the commission? And so the reality is that he missed out on a massive opportunity because he was focusing more on what the split was, not how much money he was going to be putting in his pocket at the end of the day, right? So just understand, when a company says that you get to keep 100% of your commission, they generally charge you a monthly desk fee or deal fee, as ultimately all brokerages have expenses and they need to make a profit as well to stay alive, right? So don't spend too much time worrying about the commission split. There are far more important things like training, culture, values, growth opportunities, brand recognition, and surrounding yourself with the right people and support. Because when you're in a pinch, having the right people supporting you is worth its weight in gold. It's kind of like having a really good lawyer, right? Lawyers will do all the same thing in regards to closing your sales. But when you're in a pinch right before closing day and you need a strong lawyer to negotiate for you, it's worth its weight in gold. And so the reality is it's the same with brokerages and teams. If you get the right people supporting you, it can catapult your career moving forward. It's important to note that in a team setting, most or all of the marketing costs will be taken care of by the team. So in return, you share in more of the commission. And since teams generate a lot of potential buyers and sellers to work with, you can spend more time actually working with buyers and sellers doing deals, which in turn makes you better, faster, because you get more reps in, and you spend less time coordinating listings, marketing yourself, and hunting for 100% of your clients that you serve, because a team has a proven model for generating new business for you, in addition to you bringing your own business, right? But the reality is that if you partner with a strong, recognizable brokerage or team, your ability to close will be higher. And the net effect will be more sales and more net profit in your pocket. The brokerage or team brand and reputation play a significant role in establishing credibility in the market and positioning you as the authority. This helps attract clients and ultimately increases your ability to convert more business. As a new agent, the largest advantage of being part of a team is you don't need to recreate the model. You can plug into a proven system and close sales more quickly. Keep in mind that not all teams are created equal. There are some groups out there that just simply pull 3 to 4 agents together and they end up calling themselves a team. If you want to create your own brand and grow on your own, you'd be definitely better off to join a traditional real estate brokerage. There isn't one size fits all. There's an opportunity out there regardless of whatever your goals are. That's why there are many successful brokerages out there and teams, because there's just different cultures and they attract different people. So you really got to find what works best for you. There's not one size fits all, as I mentioned there before. Once you go through this process, you should have a much better understanding of where you want to work. Ideally, researching 3 to 5 companies will give you enough information to make a wise decision. So the big 3 takeaways here, guys. Number 1, review multiple companies before making a decision and start online, and then take that through the interview process. Do a tour of the office and get your own read if it's the right fit. The next is to ask thoughtful questions during the interview to evaluate the culture and support not only what the commission split is. And lastly, focus on long-term success. So the compensation is not the end-all be-all. It's more how much money you're going to put in your pocket, and is this a culture that I want to grow my business upon? Thanks for listening, guys. Please subscribe and share this episode with other real estate agents that you think could benefit from it, that are just starting out or looking to make a change. I love you guys, and let's keep on going full out.